You remember boats? Well, now we got boats in the air. All right. Hello, everybody. This is the second video, and I was like, I might as well just crank this thing out because, the first one was a lot of fun to make, and if I don't just do the second one, I don't think I'll ever do any other one ever again. So I'm just gonna, get right staying into it. I was thinking that we'll keep it current and modern. For now, I just did a really recent movie last time, so I think I'll do a semi-recent movie this time. And it's a movie that's not as bad, for sure, but it's got things to it which are really interesting. And that movie is Uncharted. Uncharted. Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, directed by the guy who directed Venom, which I remembered his name at one point, but he directed Venom. The Sonyverse. We are totally doing Sonyverse right now because, Morbius is Sony and Uncharted is Sony. Okay. So, Uncharted. Now, I feel like I have to say before I start, I have not played any of the Uncharted games, so I came to it with that sort of aspect of, not really having any expectations in regard to, the portrayal of the characters. Not really. So basically what I mean by that is I wasn't really attached to the way the characters are portrayed in the video game. But that being said, I did watch a playthrough of Uncharted 4, which I really enjoyed. So I was able to, experience a little bit of, the Uncharted formula and just sort of the whole vibe of it and, the whole adventure aspect. And here's the thing. That tiny amount of exposure was a really big element that allowed me to genuinely enjoy this movie. I think if I had been a diehard fan of the games, I would have hated it. And if I had not known the games at all, there would have been an aspect that I would have not bought about the movie. One thing about the video games that I noticed is that they're very expansive. The plot is really long and everything because they're long games, right? And they're story-based, so they gotta be long. And a lot of it is kind of semi-generic, just adventure stuff. And I don't mind that at all. It's just a lot of temple kind of things and a lot of globe trotting and a lot of, there's also a lot of fight scenes that are a little bit shoehorned, the games are great, or the game I watched at least was great, but there was still a lot of just generic sort of adventure-y sort of things, derivative of, Indiana Jones and that sort of thing going on. That in the back of my mind allowed me to take the action and adventure of the Uncharted movie with a little more understanding. I did not mind that it was, just generic adventure because I was having a lot of fun with that generic adventure, it's all, there's the fake out in the middle. That's really formulaic. In the middle of the movie, they approach what they think is going to be the treasure it's not Venice in this one. See, I think it's Venice because of Last Crusade, Indiana Jones, where they go into these catacombs or whatever in Uncharted. And, they go underground and they're these Roman, big jugs, and they're like, oh my goodness, the treasure of Magellan. Yes, it's this treasure of Magellan is what they're looking for. So the Roman amphoras or jugs or whatever, and, they open them up to see if the treasure is there. And they're just sand, right? And it's a fake out. And okay, so that speaks to a lot of why I think people didn't like this movie on a critical level. I think most people, if they dislike this movie, they disliked it because of the portrayal of Nathan Drake and the way the story went, which I will 100% get to that at some point. But on a critical level, there's a lot of sort of ground that is lost in character development. There is some character development in this movie, not so much for Nathan Drake, but again, I don't mind that, and I will get to why. Basically, this whole movie is sort of a whole exercise in, not only do I not mind the fact that this is sort of not great, it's also just like I'm having a good time with it. And like, what's her name? The girl, the Australian girl who's not actually Australian. She doesn't really go anywhere, which again, I don't mind so much because I was just having a good time with the main two characters. That, and also the villain, Antonio Banderas. I kind of wish they had stayed with him because he was just your quintessential, like, evil guy kind of thing going on, which I appreciated that. I think, if you're gonna have a movie that leans into tropes, then Antonio Banderas is a good guy to get for your villain. Okay, so I've been really scattered so far, so I'm just going to start from the beginning of the movie. To start out, you start with the necklace, which is a big thing in the games, which they changed the origin of the necklace a little bit because they wanted to put his brother Sam into the movie right off the bat, which again, I'm cool with that. I think it was a bit, to people who have played the games, it was a bit much to put into one movie, to have Sam in the movie and, all of, the normal sort of origin as well, because Sam doesn't come in until later, I think, in the games. But, I mean, if you're putting too much in your movie, it's okay as long as it doesn't feel overstuffed. Which I didn't feel like the movie was overstuffed, plot or narrative-wise. It was over the top a lot of the time, but definitely not overstuffed. But anyway, we're in the necklace, right? And we pan out, and it's Tom Holland, Nathan Drake, unconscious in the air, and he's like, oh crap, and then there's this pretty, it was good. I'll say it. It was a pretty great scene of him hanging off this airplane with these cargo units hanging off the airplane and fighting with people and trying to get to the top, and the whole thing ends with him getting hit by a car that's coming out of the plane and sort of just he's falling, and then it cuts and you're like, that's what you call a cold open, man. And I have some reservations about cold opens in movies. I think with action movies, they're kind of, you have to grab the audience because you're inevitably going to slow down for the real start of the movie. So I don't mind that so much. Plus, I think they really ingeniously reincorporated that scene into the narrative of the movie. With the cold open, all you know is that he's in the air and he's trying to fight bad guys, which is good, and it grabs you and everything, and there's a lot of mystery to it, which is fun. And then when the scene plays over again, about halfway through the movie, a little more than halfway through the movie, there's a lot of the extra context, and on top of that, different, they shoot it differently, almost completely differently. Sort of Nathan is falls to the wayside in lieu of the Australian girl And there's just really cool tidbits. Like there's a genuine reason why Nathan Drake gets hit with the car at the end of the cold open scene, because the Australian girl was trying to escape. The bad guy's up on the plane, and there's a point where one of the big cargo things like blasts one of the bad guys that Nathan Drake is fighting just in the head, and he flies off. And that's because like she was getting rid of some goons, because she was all by herself. That was a really good scene. Like, thinking about it now, like the resourcefulness and of the two good characters there, and there was just a right amount of like peril, but not, you knew they were gonna survive, but they survived because they used their wits and everything, and they there was a good sense of tension. They weren't they weren't completely God mode. I mean, once you get down into once the car drops, he does that thing where they swim through the air, and he lands on the car. But at that point, the movie's like establishing itself even further as bonkers. That's something again that I appreciate, that they really run with the fact that they're kind of bonkers and over the top with increasingly over the top set pieces. The plane is not the most over the top set piece. We will get to the most over the top one. And so, yeah, they sort of they get more and more bombastic, which I like that. I like that a lot. I like it when a movie sort of especially an adventure movie, embraces sort of the big over-the-top set pieces. I mean, like Pirates of the Caribbean. I just love Pirates of the Caribbean. It's one of the best. And it's really it goes almost into camp. It's so over the top, but it's so good because of it. And Uncharted isn't as good as Pirates of the Caribbean, but I got that feeling from it. And you know what? I'm totally okay with just getting that feeling, because at the end of the day, adventure movies aren't really there to be amazing. They're just there to entertain, and I was entertained. So yeah, the increasing bombasticness is great. But okay, so again, I'm doing the Christopher Nolan thing, so I should stop going all the way around the mulberry bush. So the movie keeps going after the cold open. Remember, we were at the cold open. After the cold open, we meet Nathan Drake, and here's the thing. Tom Holland is not Nathan Drake. Tom Holland is Tom Holland with the name Nathan Drake. But I very quickly, so at the very beginning, for watching the first scene between Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland as Drake and Sully, I was like, I don't like this. Drake and Sully are supposed to be different kind of people. But basically after that first scene, I just was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just not going to care about the adaptation into the movies, and I'm just going to watch it as this is Tom Holland and this is Mark Wahlberg, and they're just characters, And once that was the thing, I was like, I really dug it. I think, Tom Holland is, he has some good quips. He's got some great stunts and things, like I really liked the auction sequence where he's just sort of like it was a good way to have some tension, where Sully has to keep bidding up Antonio Banderas, the bad guy. I don't know, that's probably been done before, but I had never seen it been done before, so there you go. I liked it. And yeah, the whole thing where Nathan Drake is just sort of bumbling and fumbling his way through trying to get stuff done. It's good. I really like the progression that the movie has. It doesn't just launch right into him being completely amazing at literally everything. Which, I mean, maybe if I were to watch it another time, I would like see a little more of that. But from what I saw, it's a pretty good progression for Nathan. Also, I love the fact that he's Tom Holland because the character of Nathan Drake in this movie is sort of just like your he's basically kind of like a Spider-Man kind of character where he's naive and he's a do-gooder and he wants what's best for people, but also he's a bit of a scoundrel and he steals things, but he's very charming. And I was like, yeah, all right, I like this. I don't mind it. Sully, Mark Wahlberg, I think the two of them are really great together, which, again, they're not Sully and Drake, but I think they have a really nice chemistry. Actually, and I'm going to say this, Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland are better than other Mark Wahlberg, like, duo movies, like the other guys. I didn't think Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell were that great together. I know that that's not that popular of an opinion, but Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, genuinely, they had some funny moments, old man, young man kind of thing. I mean, it was all a bit tired, in the cliche, or at least the been done before department, but I mean, I chuckled at the jokes, so, well, I can't complain when I chuckle at the jokes. So the movie just, it continues in standard fashion. I think I really liked the whole thing with the keys and just the little action scenes that happen here and there. I really liked the whole thing with Sully up at the Papa John's trying to get the key into the thing and them being down at like in a rave. It was like when they got into the rave party and then they had to like enter the temple from the back counter of the bar. That was when I was like, you know what? I'm really liking the sort of the twists and turns that this is taking. He was able to use his bartending skills that we saw at the beginning. Young Tom Holland, who looks like my age, is tending bars and just like being a smooth guy. But I don't know. I like a good use of skill, even if it's a bit trivial, especially if it's a bit trivial, and they don't draw too much attention to it. Like sometimes in a bad movie they'll have like that token callback thing, but in this I think they do it pretty well. And then there's the fake out, which, again, fine. It was like at the halfway point, what are you going to do? And then they get a map, and it's like, map time. Also, there's a good moment. Sully sort of has this moment of trust with Drake, where he has to drop his key down in order to get to what they think is the treasure, but is actually like a map to the treasure. So yeah, that's the whole thing. They sort of all mistrust each other because they're all sneak thieves, except for Drake because he's naive and he happy-go-lucky do-gooder, which again is well exemplified in he saves the Australian girl from drowning. Which I was like, you know what, this is the kind of guy I like to watch, He's honest to a fault and everything, and I enjoy that sort of thing. The villain is he's kind of an interesting, that he's like a old guy, but also like he kills his father and stuff. Like that kind of thing is usually reserved for like young Joaquin Phoenix, Emperor Commodus kind of characters, like a Gladiator, but it all passes by pretty quickly, and not a lot of attention is drawn to it. Plus, again, I think I'm spoiling everything this time. I didn't spoil anything from last movie, but I'm just spoiling it. He gets slit in the throat by the secondary bad person. Also, like, the villain's plan is a bit weird because he, like, hires Nathan Drake and Sully, but he also hires this other, like, girl who's, like, a bad person. I don't know what he was thinking there. I never really knew what he was thinking there, but whatever. The narrative wheels spin well enough to where I didn't really mind. So yeah, she slit the bad girl slits his throat, and that's when like everything goes down on the plane because they have like a tentative agreement. The Aussie girl double crosses Nathan Drake, but Nathan Drake like planned for it, so like she takes the coordinates that he wrote, but they weren't the actual coordinates. I like that. Unfortunately, it's sort of diverted her into sort of a corner, and they sort of just like place her away from the action in the final showdown and the final climax. But it's sad for her character. Um, but she was sort of a side character anyway. She wasn't one of the big ones, and the big ones get have a good little moment where I like how the absolute bombasticism, which I had so much fun with, where it's total logic completely out the window, where they lift the boats up into the air and they have a big boat fight with the helicopters and the boats. Oh, I loved it. It was just like I got the feeling of like I love the old adventure movies on pirate ships. You know, I already mentioned Pirates of the Caribbean, and this is like that, except it's up in the air. It's like I love it when they take a thing like fighting on boats, and then they just like semi-arbitrarily just like totally up the ante like by like 100%. And they're just like, you remember boats? Well, now we got boats in the air. And I mean, in a genuine way, it makes it a lot more fun. Like when Nathan Drake is like swinging on the rope, because of course he's swinging on the rope. He's like thousands of feet up in the air. Like stakes, man. There's actual stakes. Also, I love the comeuppance of the villain when a whole boat crashes on her head. Oh, yeah. I don't remember how it goes down. If I remembered, maybe there was some good thematic stuff. Basically, the only really good thematic stuff in the movie is Sully throws away the gold to save Nathan Drake. It's at the very, very, like, all of this big bombastic stuff just, like, comes to a literal point as Nathan Drake is on the tip of the masthead. And he's reaching out for Sully, who's in the helicopter. And if Sully doesn't grab his arm, then he's gonna die. But Sully is holding his gold or whatever, and if he has to drop the gold if he wants to save Nathan Drake. And they did a good job of like giving little concessions between Sully and Nathan throughout the movie, like I said. But he was always like, I'm in it for the money, dude. Like he sort of almost abandons Drake at the auction. And so he's not in it to like do anything for Nathan Drake. And then there's that neat moment where they become friends, and I like that. And then, they have their cake and eat it too, because, it's a feel-good kind of movie, and Nathan's got some gold in his pocket. So, and then it just ends, There wasn't really any falling action or anything, which, again, I appreciated. I was like, we're done with the big action. And what else is there? We beat the bad guys. It's all that regular stuff. We did our big climax. We got the action in, beat the bad guys, like I said, and we got the gold, and Venture's all done. And I was like, heck yeah, let's go. It's just your standard sort of action movie. Not anything real special. And definitely throws logic out the window a couple times, but I think that all just makes it just a little more fun. Plus, I was really fond of it. I liked all the performances, and it was a great time. I laughed a bit, and I got invested, and there were moments where I felt genuine, like, I was, really liking the action and that sort of thing. And There were a couple moments with the story. I mean, the story wasn't all that, but yeah, but I really enjoyed it, and it sort of had an episodic kind of feel that the games have, which again allowed me to um, sort of enjoy it a bit more on its own, on its terms of being sort of like a standard action movie. So yeah, I really liked it, and this was all just a big soup of said semi-positive things to say, but hopefully maybe some of it made sense. Yeah, so subscribe maybe. I don't know. This probably went on for too long and you haven't gotten here yet. So yeah.